KGVO Missoula Sports Talk Tonight and streaming online at newstalk.kgvo.com.
The storm is brewing, but that's okay. All is calm here at Sports Talk Tonight, even in the absence of Scott Gurnsey, who sneaked out on me again. He says he told me about this one, so I got to believe him when he said last week, yeah, I won't be here next week. I said,
yeah,
well, okay.
I don't believe it. You believe it.
I don't mean it exactly this way, but I hope Eric Tabor isn't married yet. You know, I know that's coming up real soon, but I'll bug him anyway. And of course, as always, Sports Information Director Eric Tabor from the University of Montana, in spite of his busy schedule, loyal to the house band, has agreed to come in and co-host with me, Denny Bedard, Sports Talk Tonight. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Denny. You caught me on my last week of freedom, so I'm like, hey, I'm not expected home for dinner at any time right now, so I can go jump on Sports Talk Tonight, talk some sports, and
well, congratulations
on
you've got a very exciting month ahead of you.
I do.
Unless you can figure out a way to attach some sports metaphors, it's not really a sports talk event or item, but you're planning to get married, as we mentioned, and so you're getting that all organized, and you got to go cross country, and you got a lot to do in the next few weeks.
A lot going on, and I've been on the road with the GSA, the Grizzly Scholarship Association Spring Tour, so I've been on the road for the last 3 weeks, basically traveling. I think I was tallying it up. I think we're about 2,800 some miles of driving around the state right now. So I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. My golf game's improving, so that's great. Yeah. It's been awesome to go out and see everybody around the state. But so I head to Helena and then Butte in the next 2 days, and then I get on a plane right after that, and I head for the East Coast for a bachelor party in New York City, which nothing could go wrong there. I don't see anything happening there.
Yeah, because it'll only go about 3 days. So
you know what we're going to do? We're going to see the Yankees Red Sox. I got tickets right along the third baseline for Yankees Sox on Tuesday. So there is some sports in it. There's some sports, and then the nuptials are up in New Hampshire at a family's place on the following Saturday. And then it's off to the honeymoon. So
well, we really do appreciate you finding time for us. I kind of hesitated. I thought, do I bug him about this or not? And if not, maybe I can find somebody else. But I'm always glad that you come in and fill in for Gurns, and you do a great job. And talk a little bit about the spring tour. How have the Montana Grizzlies? You mentioned your golf game's a little better. That's good. How have the Grizzlies been received across the state of Montana?
It's been awesome, actually. I think this year has been a surprisingly stout turnout. Pretty much everywhere we've gone. We went to Big Fork and for the Grizzly Golf Classic up at Eagle Bend, and it was probably the worst day of weather we've had all spring. I would say we got absolutely soaked, but it was still a sold out event. Big turnout up there, and that kind of set the tone. It's been great everywhere we went. Sydney, we had 50-mile-an-hour winds, which I guess is par for the course over there. But we had big winds in Sydney, but it was the most golfers they've ever had in their event. They raised the most money they've ever raised.
Wonderful.
So it's been awesome to see everybody. Been a lot of miles behind the wheel. Riley Corcoran, if I ever sit next to him and get in a car again, it'd be too soon. No, I'm kidding. Oh, that's tomorrow. That's right. I'm sitting with him tomorrow.
Well, then you're dang lucky Pinkerton showed up, because he was probably our backup. If Jamie couldn't make it, we were probably gonna have him going.
No, so yeah, the spring tour has been great. All the fans have been awesome, and we're just having a good turnout. So off to Helena tomorrow, and then Butte the day after that.
Well, I'm sure it doesn't prevent people from asking and talking football even in late May. Granted, it's a little bit of a dormant time of year. Not saying the sports information director doesn't have a lot to do, but as far as football, typically mid to late May, a little bit of a dormant time of year. And, of course, that darn softball team, they created a heck of a diversion at the same time. So
yeah, they kept Joel Carlson awful busy in the last few weeks, that's for sure. Not
they did. I love to read both yours and Joel's stuff. I always get excited when I see emails come in from you guys. But what is the football talk about at this point?
The spring tour, the headliner at all these stops is Coach Stitt, obviously, and there's always a lot of people with a lot of questions. Riley and I have come up with a standard joke at every stop where I am the only guy that knows the starting quarterback and I'm selling it for $100. So if anybody wants to know starting quarterback, I got that info, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
And and so
are you making, not that it's any of my business, you making any money off that way?
No takers yet.
Okay, nothing.
I don't know why.
Good.
I don't know why no one's
that's
paying for
probably
it.
just as well.
Yeah, there's probably some NCAA rule about that or something, but it's all right. Surprisingly not, but Coach Stitt's been out there pounding the pavements and talking to folks that was playing golf and that kind of thing, and the rest of the staff's been out recruiting, and that's the big deal. I mean, we've had guys all over the place. I was talking to Brian Hendricks, defensive line coach, yesterday. He spent a week in Colorado. We had guys in Southern California. Justin Green was just in San Diego for about a week. Arizona, Oklahoma, they've been everywhere. So, yeah, we're getting them. We're unturning the rocks, which is great.
Yeah, and as far as Gurnsey and I are concerned, I guess the most recent recruit that we've had to talk about is our Washington State transfer running back, Elijah Lee. Yeah,
and that's exciting. I think that's going to be a real good ad. We needed a running back, if for nothing else, just some depth there.
Right.
And this kid is probably no taller than John Wynn was, but he's 200 plus pounds, and he's a bowling ball, and he's not afraid to throw his body in the line either. They really liked him at Washington State. The coaches loved him. They probably would have scholarshiped him, but they just had too many numbers at that spot. He was a walk-on from Venice, California, so he shows up at Wazoo, walks on, makes the team, got plenty of reps last year on special teams, scored a touchdown against Idaho, which I like that. I don't know about you, but if you're scoring against the Vandals, that's pretty good. He just wasn't gonna. They would have scholarshiped him. He just wasn't gonna get one with the numbers they have. So I think the rapport between Montana's staff and Wazoo's staff is really good. And they said, "Hey, you should check out Montana. I hear they need a running back." And came over here, loved it, and off we go.
That was my next question about what is the connection there. And I thought there was some connections between Montana and Washington State football coaching staffs, but I also understand that he was pals or acquaintance with one of our former Grizzly basketball standouts, Kareem Jamar. Was there any kind of a
I've heard there's a connection there. I haven't heard too much about it.
Maybe they knew each other growing up or something.
Yeah, California athletes, that kind of thing. And he played a little basketball back in the day, but I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, so that's good. Eric Tabor, my guest co-host tonight. Our special guest, University of Montana head softball coach Jamie Pinkerton. Your phone calls are welcome at 721-1290 if you have anything that you'd like to ask the coach. Eric, why don't you pay a bill or two before we get to trivia?
This segment of Sports Talk Tonight brought to you by Orange Street Food Farm, locally owned and operated grocery store featuring the freshest fruits and vegetables, fresh meats, and a great beer and wine selection. Orange Street Food Farm, a Missoula classic. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, trivia time at 721-1290. If you know the answer, we're brought to you by Happy Days Car Wash and Fuddruckers. We'll give you a $10 gift certificate to Fuddruckers, home of the world's greatest hamburgers. You top it yourself to make it absolutely perfect. And they've also introduced the slider tour. If you got an appetite on Sunday night, you better get to Fuddruckers. From 6 to 9 p.m., it's only $15. Sample all the Fuddruckers sliders with all their special toppings that you want. Also includes wedge-cut fries and a soft drink or draft beer of your choice. That's Fuddruckers on North Reserve. They do that on Sundays. And from Brent and the crew at Happy Days Car Wash, we have a gift card that is for the Works. Get a Works car wash at Happy Days. By the way, Happy Days Car Wash is celebrating their 15th anniversary, and they are introducing an unlimited monthly car wash club for as low as $24.99. Check that out at Happy Days, but we do have a gift card for the Works. If you know our trivia, 721-1290, the number to call. And I kind of led Eric down the football path because a football schedule question. One of the quirks of this year's Montana Grizzly football schedule is none of the Big Sky Conference California schools. Cal Poly, Sacramento State, and UC Davis are on the 2017 schedule this year. Might be nice to have a break from Cal Poly. They've kind of had our number the past couple of years, but UC Davis, that's another story. Montana leads the all-time series against UC Davis, A, 10-1, B, 7-0, or C, 8-4. What is the Grizz record against UC Davis all time? A, 10-1, B, 7-0, or C, 8-4. Got to have your answer at 721-1290. Need you to call right now. Get us a winner, and then we'll get to Grizz softball coach Jamie Pinkerton here on Sports Talk Tonight.
First Montana Bank, we provide things to make your banking easier with free services like online banking, remote check.
Now back to Missoula's Sports Talk Tonight on KGVO.
Missoula Sports.
Every second of every day.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Tonight. My name's Eric Tabor, Sports Information Director, University of Montana with Denny Bedard, and we've got University of Montana head softball coach Jamie Pinkerton on the way. This segment of Sports Talk Tonight brought to you by Grizzly Liquor, located downtown next to the Iron Horse. Big Sky, big selection, and online at grizzlyliquor.com. So, Denny, what do we got for a trivia answer over there?
Well, we've got an oops on the studio operator. Might help if I unbusy the lines a little bit faster. Sorry about that, and I think I might have dropped. I think I might have dropped one of the contestants, too.
Hanging up on
Anyway, so if somebody calls back and says, yeah, I was on and I had the right answer, fine, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll take another one, too, if you want to call in. 721-1290. We're talking about the history of Montana Grizzly football against UC Davis, pointing out that the Grizz don't have any Big Sky Conference California schools on the schedule this season, but UC Davis, that's usually a pretty good one to have. Montana leads the all-time series A 10-1, B 7-0, or C 8-4. Grizzly, the Aggies A 10-1, B 7-0, C 8-4. If you still want to play, we can find extra Fuddrucker gift certificate and Happy Days Car Wash gift card for you at 721-1290. Would you like to introduce our guest?
I will. There's one thing I want to say real fast about the Aggies. I'm kind of upset we're not playing them this year because they got Dan Hawkins head coaching down there now.
Is this his first year?
Yes.
He's making his debut.
It's going to be awesome. Dan Hawkins is one of my favorite coach interviews of all time. Back in the day for Fox Sports, I don't even know when it was. Back when he was with Colorado. He's doing an interview, and he's talking about an anonymous call or an email from a parent. Which, Jamie, you've never had those before, I'm sure. And the parents were a little upset about the coaching staff moving a week off of summer break till earlier in the semester or something like that. And Hawkins just loses it. It's Division I football. If you don't like it, go play intramurals, brother. And it's the funny. Oh, you got to YouTube it. You got to go find it on YouTube. It's the funniest interview of all time. So I'm hoping he loses it at a Big Sky Conference press conference one of these days.
Now this is when he was still at Colorado or at Boise. Where was he?
When he was at Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at CU. I don't know how long he'd been there. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, we are happy to bring in special guest.
Yes, indeed.
Big Sky champion, two-time Big Sky Coach of the Year, made his first trip to the NCAA tournament with the Grizz in only his third season as a program ever. Pretty amazing stuff. Jamie Pinkerton, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Eric and Denny. Glad to be here. Life's starting to slow down a little bit, at least for a week.
I saw it yesterday in the office, and it was the first time you've been that I saw you been having fun with it. High five! I got a Big Sky Conference championship. Man, that's great.
Well, I mean, you take them when you can get them, obviously. So
Sure.
It was a great season. If you go to the first of the year and said that this would be the script, it would have to be more movie-like. I don't know if I would have believed it, but if you'd have told me, I would have taken it and said, let's roll with it. But it was a fun ride. We got hot at the right time at the end of the year, and once again, it's 2 years in a row we've really played well down the stretch. And this year, the girls had the experience to fight through what happened to them the year before and losing on the last day of the season against Weber. And then we went to the Big Sky Conference tournament last year for the first time and had nerves. And then we fought through that, won the tournament. And then I think we had those same nerves at the NCAA regional. We went back to playing ball kind of like we did in early March. Kind of had the big innings sneak up and get us, which we hadn't during late March, April into early May. And, it's probably time to have a bad stretch, and we just picked the wrong time.
Well, a couple of things. You look at, you had two bad innings at the NCAA tournament. So it's not like they just fell apart out there. You kind of took a couple of naps in two innings where, Fresno and Washington kind of scored some runs. But that, and then talk about getting hot at the right time. And you can explain this better than I can. Beating Weber 4 times, right? At Weber, and they'd only lost, 2 games in the last 2 years at home or something?
They had lost 2 games total, I think. One conference game in 3 years at home.
Wow.
They were 30. This is all Joel right here. This is not. This is not.
Well, then it's correct. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they were 35-4 since 2015, and then they lost 4 out of 5 in 2 weeks. So we were hot. They were cooling off. Things went our way, and except for a bloop single, we could have been conference champs and tournament champs. But Weber's a great program. It's a classy rivalry. It's clean and it's fun. We had a lot of on our Facebook account. We had some of the Weber parents wishing us luck, and
nice.
And Jerry Bovey came up after we lost the previous week and said, "Hey, I know it's tough, but you have a really good ball club." And he made the comment to me, "We only won 3 games our first year," and he was a class act. And then he did the same thing after we won. He came out. I was waiting for the players to get finished showering and get to the bus, and he stopped by the bus and congratulated me. So it's a good rivalry. It's a I don't know if you want to call it friendly, but it's a classy rivalry, and sports need that.
Yeah, and I think the Big Sky Conference needs that. It's one of those deals where we come into Montana comes into the conference, and we haven't got a rivalry yet. Montana State doesn't play softball, so we don't have that sort of in our back pocket waiting for us. But just the fact that we seem to have climbed that ladder so fast, and Weber's been a very, very, very good program for quite some time. It's almost a natural, you know what I mean? And it's fun to see that from my perspective, because I'm not the SID for softball, but I pay close attention and everything. But it's fun to see that sort of develop.
Well, and this year it kind of had developed. We got over the hump against Sac State. We hadn't played well. I think we were like 1-7 against Sac State coming into the year. So we got over that hump. Idaho State we haven't gotten over that hump. We had beaten them one time at home, but we won a series. And what was really special about the year is that I think it was the first time since 2013 or 14 when Idaho State we won every series. And Weber lost a series, but they had some sweeps where we didn't. But we only had one sweep, Northern Colorado at home, but we won every series. And
a balanced conference this year too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, big balance.
And that was the main thing is I always preach to our players: win series, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's what they went out and did. And then at the end of the day, it didn't get them the conference championship. I'll put that on me. I'm a baseball guy and a softball coach, and conventional wisdom says do not walk the tying run or the winning run to first base. And we had Sarah Hingsberger from Weber, which was the first team all-conference, batting .343, and we had the tying run at second and first base open. And I still think to this day on the bus ride home after our kids were heartbroken is if we walk her, we probably win. And
right.
She had a DSH over. And I can't tell you what DSH means. And dink something hit, and we lost. And if I would have done that, which is against conventional wisdom,
right?
If someone else then hits a double and we lose, everyone's saying, "Well, if he hadn't walked the
right, sure."
I went with it, and it didn't pan out.
It panned out in the end.
I am so relieved that the question I was half afraid to ask just got answered. So that had to have been that was a tough coaching decision. That's where I was going with that. Is that had to be one of those challenging coaching spots, because I think the player, if I recall, after that game tying signal, the next batter up, and then there's no guarantee it's going to happen the same. I think maybe the next batter up,
I think she was strikeout. Yeah, Splinter struck out.
And so so you've got a batter. I think maybe in the neighborhood of a 400 hitter that you got to decide. Well, do we pitch or do we walk, and then face one with about 100 points lower? But yeah, putting the winning run on, that's stressful too.
Well, and if you do that, like I said, you walk Kingsburger, and then Splinter hits one, and Weber's field is a big yard because of the altitude. It's 220, 230, 220. It's 20 feet down the lines and 10 feet longer in center. And if they get a gap and they score from first, then it's on the other side. Well, he shouldn't have done that. So,
yeah.
But as coaches, we're never second guessed.
And so you have to turn around and go right back down to Ogden again a week later. And you'd made some comments in the in the news of the media that, boy, I'm going to have to do a heck of a coaching job just to kind of get their morale back up. Did you have to do that? Did you see something in your players that told you, no, we're going to be just fine when we go back down there?
I knew we were going to be fine. I had never seen a team. So, I mean, I had kids laying on the ground, squatting down, crying. I was, out there clapping, trying to get them up. There was nothing to be ashamed of. We got beat, and they were better than us that day. We won the series. I wouldn't concede they were the better team, but they did what they had to, and never underestimate the heart of a champion, they always say. And they weren't going to let us take it on their home field. But what I was concerned about is how we would bounce back Monday. And before we even started practicing, I'm not a rah-rah guy. I'm pretty matter of fact. And I just sat down and said, okay, this is what we need to do. And I let them talk about it, what their feelings were, what they felt at that moment, what we could have done differently. And I was really proud of the maturity of the team, because they said, well, if we had done this, this, and this. And there were several things in the game that had gone wrong that if we would have done something, it would have never had that. Yeah. Might not have gotten to that point. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about is, hey, when we turn this page, it's over. And we've got to put that out of our mind, not in the back of our mind, because when things get tough and adversity sets in, we can't have that in the back of our mind and have it come to the forefront. When we turn the page, it's over. And we had a 30-minute talk, and we went out and had 2 good days of practice, and we went back down there on Wednesday.
The other thing, too, Jamie, that you can't do is you end the regular season on a loss, and unfortunately it costs you the regular season championship. You're going back down to Ogden to play in the tournament, but you can't automatically assume that, we're going to play Weber for the championship. I mean, you can't look past anybody, so you got to prep that way too, I would assume.
Well, definitely. We had the good thing is by finishing in the top 2, we had the bye, so we only had the easy route, which turned out is win, and you're champions, and we still had to sit and wait to see who won between Sac State and Idaho State. And I'm telling you, Idaho State didn't have a good season record-wise, or they were the 6th seed, but they're a dangerous team, and they beat Sac State. And then the next thing, we probably match up better with Sac State than we did Idaho State, and just from a standpoint of the speed that Idaho State has. But anyways, they came through, and they had one bad inning, and we rolled it up on them. And I'm sitting there going, "Come on, ladies, let's score a couple runs and end this in the 6th." So, because I knew it was going to be a long weekend for Hood, because we knew that we were going to throw her until she couldn't go anymore, and that's exactly what we did.
Well, you had to win 3 games on the trot, correct? You beat Idaho State, and had to win 2 against Weber State, because they were the seeded team higher. So you had 3 games in a row. But talk about Michaela Hood, man. She a first team All Big Sky Conference as a freshman.
Right.
She was just lights out for you guys. I mean, her ERA, I have to go look to her ERA up, but it was next to nothing.
Well, I think she had an aha moment at Tulsa. Tulsa is a top 25 team. Took Oklahoma to the brink in the regionals to go to supers, and she snapped off a pitch. Well, actually, she crossed up the catcher and hit the umpire, smacking the mask, and knocked him down. Well, usually in a heated moment, that'll get a coach ejected. But it was in the first inning, and I think Saki called a curve. She thought it was a rise, and it went straight. I mean, it knocked him down. And luckily, I'd coached at Tulsa long enough. I knew the umpire, and I ran. I ran out there.
Why would that be on the coach? Why do you think you risk ejection?
Well,
because
there's an old thing in softball. If you're not, and I've never done this, never will do it. I try to be too classy and do the right thing, but there's things where you call a sign, drop the glove, and let it hit.
Okay.
If the strike zone's not the way you like.
All right. Okay. But, now I understand.
But anyway,
so you go running out there.
Stuff they pulled down McCormick Park, you know.
Yeah. Well, it happens more in men's fast pitch. I don't think girls 18 to 20 think that way. But anyways, I go out there and check. It was John O'Melia. I've known him for years. Great umpire. And first thing I do when I walk out there to check on him, and I take a conference and go out and talk to Michaela. And he said, "Dang, Jamie," that's not what he said, but he said, "Dang, Jamie," he said, "What?" He said, "You're only back in town like 3 days. What did I do to you?" And but he was, but anyways, he was fine. I went out and talked, and Hood was rattled. She gave up 3 runs, and she came off, and she said, "I didn't do that on purpose." And I said, "Hey, he's fine. You need to settle back in." And like from that moment on, she pitched 6 innings against Tulsa scoreless, and then she ran off the rest of the year and had a really good year.
Big Sky Conference, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
really,
awesome.
really
So
proud of her.
The kid from Las Vegas that doesn't really like the desert, I think I read somewhere. That helped in the recruiting process, right?
She's in the
Loves
right spot
the
with it.
cold weather.
Right.
So speaking of the pitching staff, you're allowed to talk about this now, I believe, but the recruits coming up from Great Falls. You got 2 of them coming down from CMR,
Right.
and another one is shaping up to be another fantastic pitcher for you.
Well, I mean, Tristan Knockenbach did a great job. Yes, she signed, and her season's over, and she's coming. I don't think there's a violation. If it was an 18, we probably couldn't talk. But she signed, sealed, and delivered. And people around Montana know about her numbers, but there's also been that skepticism out there. Well, she did it at Conrad. That's BC, and I know my dad has said this, and he might be listening, streaming online back in Broken Arrow. If you are, hello, Dad. But
Call in.
yeah, no, don't. But back to hers, people were saying, can't she do it at the next level? Well, my dad said, she's striking out 18, 19, 20, throwing no hitters, and gave up like 23 hits all last season. And my dad had a line. I was talking about, I'd like to see her make that jump. I didn't have skepticism. I knew that she was going to be a good athlete. I didn't know how good. And he said, if you're doing that against your little sister in the backyard, you're pretty good.
Right.
I mean, just because of familiarity. And then, there's people out there that said, okay, well, let's see what she does. Well, she goes to AA, goes to CMR, and does the same thing over again. So, I'm hoping that'll translate. But there'll be growing pains for her. She's an athlete. She's a competitor. And I expect her to have a learning curve like Michaela did. And
Sure.
It could be a whole year. Could be a quarter of a season, and if she does have the same learning curve, then we're going to be pretty doggone good.
And a young pitching staff, so the pitching at Grizz softball looking to be pretty strong in the years to come. Going to take a break real quick. This segment of Sports Talk Tonight brought to you by Bell McCall Ford. Great selection of new and used cars, trucks, and SUVs. Bell McCall is your locally owned, low-cost auto dealer for over 100 years in downtown Hamilton. We'll be right back. More Sports Talk Tonight after this.
Sports Talk Tonight, live from the KGVO studio.
Missoula Sports.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Tonight. My name is Eric Tabor, Sports Information Director at the University of Montana with Denny Bedard and Grizz head softball coach Jamie Pinkerton here. This segment of Sports Talk Tonight brought to you by Granite Pharmacy, locally owned and operated pharmacy on South Avenue between Shopko and Big Sky High School. Find them at granitepharmacy.com. And Denny, what do you got?
Before we get back to Jamie, Brad Robertson did not want to go on the radio. That's fine. We cater to cowards here, but I wanted to catch up and revisit our trivia question. We were asking about the Montana Grizzly football schedule. No California schools on the schedule this year. That's Cal Poly, Sac State, and UC Davis. But history has shown it's kind of nice to have UC Davis on the schedule. Montana leads that all-time series against the Aggies. Options were A, 10 games to 1, B, 7-0, or C, 8-4. Well, it was B, 7-zip, a perfect slate. That series goes all the way back to the 1920s. So needless to say, even with the Aggies now in the Big Sky, not exactly not a lot of history there. But
they're an
Grizz are 7-0.
Interesting school. They were a D2 powerhouse forever, and I think we played them 3 or 4 times in that
Probably,
span.
yeah.
It's the D2 era.
They would usually make a Montana swing. They played the Bobcats quite a bit as well.
Yeah, but they're a very good athletic school. They've got all kinds of good sports. They have softball. They're a good softball program from what I understand. Pretty decent. Yeah. So
that's good.
But Dan Hawkins, they got Dan Hawkins coaching now football, and that's going to be interesting. We'll see.
I wanted to ask our guest Jamie Pinkerton, softball coach, University of Montana, NCAA tournament, new experience for the team. Of course, when the team's only 3 years old, there's a lot of new experiences for the team. But what has this been like? Because It was getting national coverage. ESPN was covering this tournament. And I'm sure that the factoid that they were beating into the ground is this program is only 3 years old. He built it from the ground up. Have you received any attention from parts of the country yet that you might not have anticipated, just because you got kids and parents watching that and go, oh wow, look what they're doing, and the sportscaster said they're the only Division I softball program in the whole state of Montana. I'm sure a lot of that stuff was just being repeated over and over and over again. Have you seen any kind of a residual, if you will, of that?
Well, not yet. I think it's still fresh. The recruiting is going to probably pick up here. Things are pretty slow until after the World Series because we have a dead period. So
right.
My emails are up, but I don't know quite if everybody's getting into the swing of summer because things start to spike about this time. So, but a lot of people that are writing have said that they watch the games on ESPN. So, but there's some new names coming in, some, regulars that write quite often. So, I haven't seen the spike. It'll be interesting when we start hitting the recruiting trail after the World Series to see if I know what the volume is over the last 3 years, and if that I'll know pretty quick if that volume's gone up. So I'm assuming there'll probably be a slight spike in it. And
the team not only getting it done on the field this year, obviously, but I was just looking at this little bit here. You're one of 3 programs at Montana to get an NCAA Public Recognition Award, and that's the NCAA scorecard for the APR, calculated amongst all Division I programs. It tracks the progress of eligibility, retention, and graduation. So are the students doing well in the classroom? Are they going to go through and graduate? And you're one of the 3 programs at Montana to get that. So, I mean, it's hard for young kids to come into college and do well at sports and at school. So how are your girls doing it? I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, I mean, obviously, we stress it as a staff.
Sure.
Melanie Michael gets the syllabi and sits down with them, and now Brittany Gomez that's come in that's aspiring to be a coach, a young coach, and we're kind of teaching her the academic side. But first, Jen Zelmer does a great job with our players, getting them in the right classes, taking the heavier schedules in the fall, the tougher classes in the fall and the spring. Jen just has a great balance. So I probably would attribute more to Jen and her staff of getting them lined up and Mel kind of following up than anything else. What I'm proud of is this year, now that we have 15 of our 20 kids over a 3.0, it started off kind of rocky because they were just all so young and there wasn't a lot of upperclassmen say, hey, you probably need to get your studying done and things of that nature. But they've come a long ways. I think our highest GPA was this semester, 3.15, which I'm still not happy with. I want us to be in the 3.25 range, but it's better than where they were as they were coming up. So they've gotten better, and I'm really proud of them from that standpoint because they are student athletes, and this year they were successful in the classroom and on the field.
And one of the things that I have taken away from this whole spring tour we've been going around on, one of Ken Haslam's main talking points that I find super impressive. We set 2 records as an athletic department this year. 202 out of 307 student athletes got a 3.0 or better, which, that's just amazing. The ratio of 3.0s to non-3.0s there is unreal to me. So that's a school record. That's amazing. And then 72 student athletes graduated, and that's also a record. So we saw 72 kids go through that ceremony, 2 weeks ago now. Right. So that's just something I wanted to bring up. I love that stuff. And you had a graduation. It was down in Weber, right?
Yeah,
we
threw our little graduation. She had a beauty salon cape, and they made a hat, and
it was Bethany, right?
Yeah, Bethany. Yeah, she's one of those 72. Really, really proud of her, and she's going to be missed both mainly as a person and as a silent leader, and then you go down, you miss her as a student. She was a good student, and then obviously we're going to miss the 420 average and being a first team all conference player, all Big Sky the last couple of years. But that's what that's a proud coach moment when they can graduate and you get to see them be successful in the classroom and get something. A degree is important. You really can't have a good career without it these days. And really proud of Bethany.
I think it was Mel that took the video, maybe, or something like that. The little graduation ceremony. She couldn't be at the graduation ceremony.
It was actually Gene Gee, I think.
Gene took the video.
Yeah.
Oh man, but couldn't be at Washington Grizzly Stadium for the graduation. So they did it in your team conference room at the hotel down in Weber or something like that. It was awesome.
It gets back to our leadership with Ken Haslam. What I've tried to do with our program is to build it with his pillars, and then build the program with that, and then try to use my experience in the different places that I've been, what has worked and what hasn't worked. I think is I don't know if I could have built this program as quickly 20 years ago. I think there's a lot of wisdom learned and a lot of the school of hard knocks come in. But I know without the support of Kent and Gene and Jen and your department, it takes a village to make a great program, and that's what I'm thankful for, is just the people I work with every day, because without that support staff, marketing with Bryn, I can sit here and go off down the line. I think I've learned to use those people and be appreciative of the jobs and the talents that they bring. I think this would have been tougher for me to do 20 years ago. I've just learned and know that you don't win championships by being I didn't do it. I mean, we had a lot of hands and a lot of people touched this program to get us where we are today, and that's what I want people to realize.
Well, I think another thing you can be very proud of, Jamie, it seems to me, just making an observation, is that the fan base, the fan loyalty, the way they kind of take ownership or adoption of players, it seems like it's a version of it. It has that Lady Grizz basketball feel to it, where you've got to be, and it takes the players have to buy in. For example, you instilled a policy where, win or lose, your players after the game go to the gate and thank all of the fans for coming to the ball game. And it's those little things that when I say you should be proud of it, it seems like you are doing a great job of cultivating a fan base that I think was just really ready and excited to see something like this happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I, just like on this tour, I'm getting a lot of undue credit. I mean, I know I'm the figurehead, I'm the head coach, but getting back to it, I think that's what you have to cultivate that championship culture. Now the thing is we got to feed it, because now it's here 3 years earlier.
set the bar a little high.
Well, and we embrace it. I'm going to embrace it, but we still have some bumpy waters ahead. We got 11 players that graduate next year, and that's the next, and everyone's going, well, don't worry, past next year, they're still going to be seniors. But, to build that foundation, which we've built, now we've got to navigate that vacuum that's going to happen with those 11 players leaving. I'm not saying that we're going to go back to a 16-win team, but we've got to navigate and get that depth built back up so that when those players leave, we don't have a huge vacuum and have 2 or 3 bad years. And
right.
Obviously everyone's going to understand a down year every once in a while. It's cyclical. It happens. But that's our next challenge is everyone thinks that we're here, we arrived, and we're going to stay. Montana football didn't do it in 3 years. Lady Grizz basketball didn't do it in 3 years. And I'll be very surprised if Grizz softball can do it in 3 years. But we're going to embrace it. And we're building it the right way. There's a right way to do things, and those things like that, appreciating the fans and appreciating the staff. We had players sign cards and send it to everybody that touched our program in the athletic department. We set a picture of us hoisting the trophy and tried to get it to everybody that touched the program, and that's just kind of what we're trying to be about.
And I think that doing things right is filtering throughout the department too. And you talked about Kent and his pillars, what he believes in, but the end results of that, and this just came out today, actually, this is kind of like breaking news or whatever. This is the 12th year in a row that all student athletes at UM have had a 3.0 or better so every student athlete, 3.17 average GPA, which is just amazing to me. 79 athletes made the dean's list, and 18 had a perfect 4.0. So it's good stuff, and doing things right, and first thing you asked me is about football today. I believe that we're doing the same with football right now. I think we're getting high character kids, and man, talk about high character. You're a big baseball fan. Did you ever see that 60 Minutes piece they did maybe 2-3 weeks ago on the Cubs? And I'm not a big Cubs fan, but they did a really in-depth thing about the Cubs and how they won the World Series, and they're talking to the manager and just saying how it was just character guys. They went out and got purely character guys that weren't maybe the best baseball players in the league, but they were high character people, and I believe that's what we do with all of our programs over there, and football, basketball had another great academic year, and they're going to be even better next year. So
well, and that's what we try to do with Mel and I. I mean, we're always going to have coaches in that other position, matriculate up, become first assistants and head coaches, and the thing is by doing it the right way, we understand we're in a business of you got to produce wins. I mean,
right.
We get that, but also too, more importantly, we want to produce good players that are good citizens that are more than likely going to do the right things when they do graduate. It's high character, and we're going to do things a certain way, and they don't always like it, and
right.
You do lose players. Players leave. They don't want to. They don't. But there's a certain standard that I feel like Montana athletics has, and I have with our softball program that I'm not going to give in on. I'm not going to drop my standards to keep a superstar if they're in trouble all the time. I'm just not going to do it. Never have done it, and never will do it.
I love the line that Kent Haslam's had a joke in his back pocket throughout this whole spring tour, is that there's a reason we build these big old scoreboards, because we like to keep score and we like to win. So it's definitely important, but all this academic stuff is equally important. We're going to take a quick break right now. This segment, Sports Talk Tonight, brought to you by Jerry Wessel's Tire Center. Locally owned Les Schwab Tire Center provides the best tire value promise. Visit them online at jerrywesselstirecenter.com. Back with more from Coach Pinkerton here in a minute.
Sports Talk Tonight on KGVO.
Missoula Sports.
Every second of every day.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Tonight. My name is Eric Tabor, Sports Information Director at the University of Montana, with Denny Bedard and Jamie Pinkerton, head coach of the Montana softball team. This segment of Sports Talk Tonight brought to you by CHS Mountain West Co-op, Western Montana's source for Cenex, fuel, feed, fertilizer, clothing, and tack for over 75 years.
Do not despair. We don't need no Scott Gurnsey, who's on the road for Steel of the Week. Eric's got it covered. Steel of the Week brought to you by True North Steel, Western Montana's industry leader in quality, manufactured, and fabricated steel products. Eric.
It might not be a steal in the true sense of the word, but you got Helena High's Trey Tintinger, right? Man, have you heard of it? Did you see the video? Freshman. National record in the high jump for a 14-year-old. It's unreal. Now he owns the all-class Montana State records as a 14-year-old, 7 feet 1.5 inches, and he did it on his third try, right? So he's at state. He had already set the national 14-year-old mark, right? And so he's at state in Butte. I guess it's Saturday it was, and he, on his third try, he's running up, and he had an unbelievably perfect high jump, and crosses that 7'1" mark, and he broke fellow Hellgate High alumni Mark Cafelda's record. He stole his former high jump record. 7 foot was the state record before that, and it was there for 25 years. So this is not a record that gets broken very often, in the state of Montana especially. Wow. So unreal story from the past weekend. High jump record broken. The kid sets the national record. He gets the state record. He's a 14-year-old freshman, so you'll be seeing a whole heck of a lot more than him, from him, I should say. And the funny thing about it is he was injured too. So he hadn't really had a lot of time to jump this year. And so he's just doing all kinds of great things coming back from an injury. So that's the steal of the week, stealing Mark Gefelda's 25-year high jump state record. Unreal.
Brought to you by True North Steel. Do we have a stupid athlete of the week?
We do, and it's kind of an easy one. It's the one you think at and go, okay, yeah, Tiger Woods getting a DUI, and it's a weird situation. And I don't like digging on Tiger Woods. I don't, You think about what Tiger Woods has done in his life. He was a golf phenom at the age of 6, and he's winning all these amateur, teen tournaments, national teen tournaments. Then he goes to Stanford, and he wins collegiate national championships in the pressure cooker that is Stanford University. And then he becomes the best golfer on the planet, ever for at least a solid 10-year run. And he's having some problems. He's changed his swing, God knows how many times, his grip, the whole thing. But gets a DUI, and he was on some painkillers. He blew a 0-0. So you feel bad for the guy, but that's your stupid athlete of the week.
So Steele clears the bar and stupid hits the bars, I guess is
something like that. Yeah.
It
wasn't even the bar.
Well done. We've got a couple minutes left. We better get back to head coach Jamie Pinkerton and Eric. We were talking off mics a little bit about some of the softball stadium upgrades, and I know that a little bit of that is up in the air, but at least it's something that the university is working on right now.
Yeah, and the deal is that the Board of Regents for the state of Montana approved the expenditure. It's already been, we have the money in the bank. We just have to have the regents say, okay, you can go ahead and spend that now. To go ahead and make, Jamie, your stadium, your ballpark, going to be probably, I'd imagine, the best in the Big Sky with these new improvements. It already feels like the best in the Big Sky. It's unique in the fact that it's got artificial turf surface. But talk about the improvements that we're going to see now, because we lead the conference in attendance after 3 years. So there's such an awesome following for softball here in Missoula, and now they're going to get an awesome facility to go with it.
Well, I think it's going to enhance the atmosphere, which is already great. Like I said last night in Hamilton, I'm really careful about saying, you always hear players and people say we have the best fans, but I say that, and I don't want people to think, well, everyone says that. They're the best fans that I've been associated with. So we draw more than any place I've been. I mean, there's games here and there that we draw, but back to the field, I think it's going to go from dugout to dugout. We're going to have chair backs, some bleacher backs, and some bleachers with talking to Chuck Mays. And it's going to go from seating capacity of around 200 or 230 to 638.
Excellent.
And then they're going to take the temporary bleachers and place them either by the man gates down the lines. So those will still be there, which will put us over 1,000. I haven't quite decided. I kind of want to put them in the outfield. But anyways, what it's going to do is it's going to bring the fans that circle the field. We have a loud venue as it is, and now we're going to put them behind home plate. And then I think it's going to enhance for our players the sound of the park,
yep,
and create a better atmosphere. And it's going to be nicer for the fans, because now they don't have to bring their own seat. So I think it's just going to be a great thing. I think it's going to change the look, and we can do some things to beautify the park once it gets set, and we'll change some things up.
And you're right. It's built a lot like Washington Grizzlies Stadium, in the fact that it's largely a cement enclosure down by the dugouts, that kind of thing. And the fans now are going to be right on top of the action too. So it's going to get loud in there. It really will. I think with the addition of the backstop behind it, all the fans right breathing down on you, it could get loud for you, and really loud for the opponents, right?
I know our student athletes are excited about it, and we thank the Board of Regents and Grizz Nation for helping us be able to fund this and get it done. Now we just got to get it rolling.
In our final minute or so here, have you had an opportunity to kind of start working on upcoming scheduling, not conference scheduling, but some of your non-conference? You go on some pretty good trips, Coach.
Well, expect the same type of schedule to get us ready for Big Sky play.
Yeah.
We're going to open in Phoenix next year at Grand Canyon. Well, we got a World Series team there, Oklahoma. Then the next weekend we are going to go to Tucson. We got Arizona there.
Nice.
And then we'll play. We'll go to Riverside. We'll go back to St. George. those teams haven't really filled in yet. And then the third weekend, we've been invited to go to the University of Oregon and play at their new field. So we got another World Series team. So I'm not going to lighten up on the schedule. I felt that even though our records are sometimes not above 500, it prepares us for Big Sky play, and I'm not going to back away from that.
I know the fans are looking forward to it. Jamie Pinkerton, head coach, Montana softball team. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. Jamie, brought to you by First Montana Bank, excuse me. Your home for free Centennial checking plus unlimited cash back every time you use your debit card online at firstmontanabank.com. Jamie, thanks a bunch, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Denny. See you in the morning. We're going to Helena.
Yeah, we're on the road, baby. Helena and Butte. Going to wrap up the Old Grizz Spring Tour next couple days, and I'm going to go on vacation.
Great job, fellas. Loved having two members of the house band in here. That's terrific. And Eric, to you, congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
And hope you have a wonderful wedding ceremony. We will be back next Wednesday, 6 to 7 right here. Sports Talk Tonight, Newstalk, KGVO.